But unfortunately, rodents have social hierarchies because they spend so much time in the manosphere. Someone's like, I'm not an alpha, you're a beta. The other guy's like, I'm a sigma. Someone's sitting in a cuck chair. It's a whole like thing with these people, with these mice.
Hey everybody, welcome to 500 Open Tabs. I'm Hannah Hillam.
And I'm Kaveh Taherian, and I'm back, baby, and bushier than ever, looking like an insane homeless person after
you know
a
what?
2-week
I can
absence.
barely see you. I can barely see you behind the beard. I just look like there's a beard. Today our guest is Beard.
Beard is the guest. Listen, I listened to the 2 episodes that you did while I was gone. Excellent job. Thank you to Josie and thank you to Alyssa. However, I will say, you guys were talking about like popes and like eating white bread. I was like, I leave for 2 episodes and it becomes the whitest thing imaginable. So this week, I thought, and for my triumphant return, I need to bring more brown people with me as a way to counteract the past 2 weeks. So we have a very special guest. He is an oat cappuccino addict and local San Diego illustrator and educator, but we know him as the king of Artist Alley. Please welcome to the show the insanely talented Patrick Ballesteros. Patrick, welcome to the show.
Hey, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Hi, Patrick.
Pleasure to be here.
We're so happy to have you here. We've met Patrick in San Diego and become friends with him, and also done, it seems like, multiple panels now at this point, both in and out of state.
That's actually cool.
That's right.
That's actually pretty fun. Let's do
Took it
in
on
and
the
out of
road.
country. I'm looking forward for that.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Where should we go?
Somewhere where they'll
Literally
let us
anywhere
back
but
in.
here.
So just saying, yeah.
Good,
That's
you know
all I'll
what?
say. I'm not touching that too much, but I'm just saying, as long as they let us back in, I'm fine.
I take it back. We're staying here.
Yeah. I'm just going to have
there's
my
a-
passport
yeah.
everywhere I go with me, no matter
You're
where
in
I'm
San
Good.
Diego, no less. I'm sure it's even harder directly by the border in terms of...
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I
All
know
that
that. I'm
to
not
worry
crossing
about.
that thing. Yeah, I'm not touching
I
that.
love that we're immediately
like,
into politics.
Because, like, yeah, see this? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Really? I belong
No.
here.
See, I'm supposed to be here.
Yeah, no, my beard's good. I served in the military. That's why it's so bushy and crazy. I just look like that.
It looks like you've been lost in the woods.
So just for context, I wanted to get rid of it before we recorded because I haven't felt normal, because I haven't trimmed it since, like, I don't know, before before C2E2.
What?
And I showed a picture to Hannah and Alyssa, and they laughed at me, and they're like, no, you have to keep it for at least
I
one episode.
begged you
So,
to keep it.
Yes.
And now I don't even know why, because the payoff hasn't been that great.
It's not that exciting. I just look homeless.
It's
But
funny.
you could cosplay as like a Last of Us character, just coming out
I guess
of like
that's true, yeah. Apocalyptic.
just have a clicker behind you. Sarah could be a clicker. You'd be like, huh.
Dude, that'd be so scary. No, but it's you look like a wizened old forest man.
I don't know about wise, but certainly a forest creature. Anyway, Patrick, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and also where do you fall in the pocket of, are you an open tab haver or are you a non-open tab haver? Where do you lie in that?
So, as you said, I'm an illustrator, educator, worked in multiple fields from comics to games, kids' books, all that stuff. And people in San Diego know me for being an artist at San Diego Comic-Con, which has been very, very, really cool to be in and be a part of. And as far as a tab person, yeah, I have too many open tabs.
All right.
I need to close
One
them.
of us.
Like, why is my computer so
No.
slow? Oh crap! I have 3 videos playing that I forgot, and this one site has like 1,000 ads that I need to close, and it's dragging my computer down.
What are they generally about, your tabs?
So I usually have Facebook open because there's a chat with my buddies, but all the other tabs, it's usually reference images for illustrations that I'm working on. For instance, last night I had all these tabs open for Severance because I'm working on a Severance piece,
Nice.
and it was just
Ooh.
like. I was going down a rabbit hole like, I didn't know that. That's cool. Let me click on that. And then just like kept on opening. Because, you hold down Command or Shift or whatever, and it just opens it in a new window.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just like, you just
Oh,
keep
we know.
going. Yeah. I'm just like, dang it.
We're well
I need
aware.
to close some
Suddenly
of this.
You're in a deep hole of your own making.
But it's like, you can save the images and put it away. I don't. I just keep it
No.
open so I can just, there it is. It's on my browser. That's cool. All right.
No, it makes sense because if you put them in a folder, they're gone forever. In my mind. Where it's
I
like,
just
no,
have
need
them
to
in my
have these
photos,
right
like
here.
pictures of my wife, and then also like a picture of like a bear in the forest of some sort, just as if it's of equal importance.
You're like, oh my God, that's so
Dude.
cute. I remember that. Yeah.
We piped on our TV. We can set it so that it does a slideshow of our photos, and mine was set up. And my husband was like, "No, we're not doing this. Because there was like somebody with like Fosse jaw, like, or like somebody with like an airplane crash. And he's like, no, we're not. we can't do this.
Wait, quick test. What's your guys' last reference image that you saved? Mine is a man on a camel posing for a photo in front of Soyuz rocket in Kazakhstan.
Whoa.
That was the last one. That's cool.
My last reference photo I saved was... This is fun. We're all artists. This is fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Patrick, you can go while she's looking.
I'm trying to think what the last one I saved. I think the last one I did save or was looking at was a Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin, because that's a commission I got for Comic-Con.
Nice.
So I was like, oh, okay.
That's a fun one.
So it makes me go down that rabbit hole of like, let me do some research first, even though I don't need to. Let me know their backstory. Like, damn it. Diving too deep.
You were at home here.
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
home. My last one was, I know what it was. It was the planet. It was the moon, because I needed to draw a bunch of craters. But I can't find it.
It's a tricky one to draw with the moon, because sometimes it just looks like a plate
gotta get
with
the craters
circles in it.
At a certain angle to actually look like craters, but also be like in perspective, on different angles on a sphere.
Yep.
The moon is hard.
It's harder than you'd think.
I just always tell my students, if you're going to draw a circle on a sphere, just think of the Death Star. Where is the opening of the Death Star? And it just makes it easier.
Right.
To like, just move the eye. Okay.
That's smart.
The easiest way to do it.
Wish I had you as an art teacher.
Yeah, me too. I was like, Patrick, give us more lessons that you have. Patrick was also kind enough to shepherd us into the gallery show that's happening this weekend. Patrick, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about what's happening? We'll get into it more in depth at the end of the episode, but give us the Cliff's Notes.
The quick rundown is this year is the 45th anniversary of PAC-MAN. So the city of Irvine, and I think they have, in conjunction with Bandai Namco or Namco Bandai, I forget which goes first, they're hosting a big event. Super big event with, I think they're going to have a lot of different Pac-Man games. But anyway, how I was brought in, I just know a lot of people that are part of that organization, the Great Park, City of Irvine. And they asked me, hey, do you know artists that would like to create artwork for this? Can you bring them in? I'm like, I can ping anyone? They're like, yeah. And so I just grabbed everyone that I could, that I knew that I thought would be interested, and then told them, like, if you know people, grab them too. Because I just, whatever came to my head, I was just like, oh, this person. It's like one of those things where when you're using Photoshop, you have all these brushes. You're like, oh, which one do I use? It's like, I've blanked out on what artists to invite. I was just like, oh my God, I think this one, maybe this one. So
right.
It turned out pretty cool. Mostly everyone said yes, so I'm excited to see what everyone has to show.
I am very excited because I was told by you, Kaveh, because you got invited by Patrick, and you're like, hey, by the way, here's this. I'm like, sure. And it turned out to be one of my favorite pieces I've done in a long time. It's been so fun, so thank you, Patrick. And if you're in the area,
thank you. Yeah,
we'll give more details at the end,
right?
Sunday,
this Sunday, May 18th, from 1 to 3 p.m. It's the opening reception at the Great Park Gallery in Irvine. The show itself will run through September 28th, but for the opening reception from 1 to 3, I'll be there. Patrick, are you going to be there?
Yeah, I plan to go.
Okay. Hannah?
I won't. I don't think I will be, but maybe.
Keep you on the edge of your seat. But stick around for the end of the episode. We'll show our pieces that we did and go into it a little bit more. But in the meantime, enough for introductions. Let's get down to business, guys. Patrick, what have you brought to us this week as far as your tab?
So it was going to start off basically with why the 80s and 90s are so much cooler than they are right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I was going to bring it back then, but I was like, oh man, that is just way too much to go over because there's so much thing. And the only reason I think I was going to bring that up was just because all the remakes are based off of 80s and 90s movies that we grew up with. But I know things are cyclical, right? During the 80s and 90s, it was all like 50s and 60s and stuff. So that's why I was like, oh, is that specific enough? Do I want to go down there? Like, no, let me get a little bit more specific. So then I texted Kaveh and said, well, what about there are no more hidden gems? And so what I meant by that is, and I'll take it back to like quick story, like to show our age or my age.
Yeah.
You have Nintendo. You have the very first console Nintendo, the cartridge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When it didn't work, what did we do?
You had to blow on it.
You had to blow on it. If that didn't work, blow on it, up and down, up and down, up and down.
And if that didn't work, you'd get like a bobby pin and try to see if there was any sort of,
to get the dust and stuff out,
like
right?
Dust, yeah.
Where did we learn that?
I don't.
Right?
Well, that's a good question.
I don't know.
We all just knew to do it, either through asking a buddy, asking a friend. there was no social media. There wasn't like a thing going around. There were Game Informer magazines and stuff like that.
Right.
But they didn't
Nintendo
talk
Power.
about how to fix it. You just knew. You just found out from another source, right?
Was it natural? Was it just like maybe there's something in there, I'll blow on it? I don't know.
Part of it was natural, and part of it was just a need to I need to fix this because I want to play my dang game. But I think also I probably was at a friend's house and they did that. I'm like, how'd you learn that?
Right.
And they didn't remember. So I'd be like, well, shoot, I'll start doing that too. Okay, cool. That works.
It's like a collective knowledge.
It is a collective knowledge. And so that got me to the idea of how things are now. It's all kind of like given to you, right?
Oh.
There is no more of that search of that, oh my God,
Right.
like there's a happy mistake, a little happy accident. Oh, great.
Yeah.
They still happen, but not as much. And I think there's something there that's what I try to capture a lot in my artwork, that journey part. But it sucks because it's like taken away because of that instant gratification that's been embedded in a lot of people. I mean, even us, right? It's still, it gets embedded in us. And so that part gets forgotten. And that's what I wanted to kind of talk about, like Easter eggs, right? Finding them on your own. Those were some of the greatest things. Like I watched
Nothing
Ready Player.
was better.
Yeah. Nothing was better. So I mean, I watched the movie Ready Player One while I was working. And at the end, there was like that Easter egg where if you play, this one game, I think it was called Adventure, and you just scroll around and you get lost at the beginning of the game, you find the Easter egg. And the Easter egg is the creator's name. And you were just meant to just wander. And that's what the goal was, just to wander around. But now it's just like told to you, like, oh, just do this. Like if you're playing a game, go over here, you'll find the secret, you'll win the game right away. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
It's not fun.
Yeah, it's not fun, right?
It's funny you bring this up because just a couple days ago, my daughter is now playing Animal Crossing. And she is always like, hey, can you look this up? And I say no every single time. Because
good.
First of all, no, just don't stop asking to use my phone. You're 7. But there's a part of me that's just like, no, figure it out.
Yeah.
Go figure it out. Go ask the capitalist pig Tom Nook how to
Tom
get a
Nook.
house. I can't look up how to get a house. You can figure it out. And she was so frustrated with me, but I was like, no, I actually think I'm going to die on this hill. I'm not telling you. You figure this out. Anyway, that's my personal experience from 2 days ago.
And that frustration is, I think, important.
Mm-hmm.
It's really important that you go through that. And I saw this other, I don't know if my wife shared it with me or someone else. It ties into all this, is that there's two groups of people, knowing and not knowing, right? So, and I'll have to find later for the show notes the person that talked about this. It's a professor and stuff. But basically, the space in between is like the learned space. And that's the most frustrating area to be in. But that's the best place to be in because you're going from not knowing to knowing. You're learning that. And so the time in between, that frustration, you got to learn to appreciate and love that, or just embrace it and know that that's what you're in right now.
It's essential.
It
I think it's
is.
essential to creativity as well. I'm sure you both understand there's that
Oh, yeah.
the beginning of a piece and the end of a piece, and inside of between it's just rage and confusion and anger and
quitting.
And for me, it's just, I have a lot of rage in it where it's just
Me
like,
too.
why isn't this working? And then when you finally hit that peak of like, oh, I think I got it. Yep. Nothing's better, man.
You've gotten all of that knowledge and experience, and now you're at that phase. You've kind of figured it out, at least for that step. And so that part, again, it's kind of getting lost, right? That part of like, oh, where does that stem from? Where does that creativity come from? Where that creativity of someone just going, oh, what the? Oh, it works. Oh my God. Right?
Somehow this worked.
It's the same thing of just like, you're fumbling around trying to come up with an art piece. Is this working? Is this not working? I don't know. You put it out there. Oh, after 10 days, here it is. Okay, cool. Now I can take that to the next one.
I think also not just the fact that you get instant gratification of finding an answer, but also the ability to shift to do something else. And having that as an option also depletes your focus of wanting to stick with something for as long as possible to figure it out. Because you could just give up and be like, oh, I don't care anymore. I'm going to go watch a TV show, the exact one that I want, because it's immediately available to me to watch at any given time of day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which again, I'm not judging people for doing that. I do the same thing. I just mean that I think that that's like a framework that makes it harder to be like, I don't have any other option but to try and figure out how to fix this Nintendo game because nothing else is available. And if not, I have to sit there and watch public access of like something that's terrible on TV. Yeah. So you're like, it's this or nothing.
Town hall meeting where some guy's just yelling. It's like, great.
But what I love is see what's even happening between all of us here is you get that bond created of other people that go through that same thing. And I don't want to say it's exclusive, but you do feel like it's that unnamed club that we're all a part of.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And it's like, you just got your membership. Come on in. Right?
Yeah, remember this?
You
remember
earned
this?
it. You totally earned it. Come on in.
People kind of roast millennials for being like nostalgic, like just addicts, you know? But I think there's something else to it where it's like, sorry, I just turned into such a beautiful discussion. You're a great person to listen to talk, by the way.
Yeah.
This was just, I feel like I'm in like a class.
Interrupted you.
Like, but there's something to
the millennials, the nostalgia.
Being nostalgic because we've seen so much happen in our lives in such a rapid way that we're kind of the last generation to remember the analog times and this time. And I think it's kind of like insane. Like it's like getting whiplash. You think back, you're like, oh yeah, I used to just sit around. We talked about this before. Like you just go outside and look at a tree. And like that's what you do for 10 minutes. But now it's like, no, I'm going to watch this episode of this show. And I mean, it's not bad, but yeah. Anyway, that's just kind of my thought.
No, it's
like,
not
I don't think there's
bad.
anything wrong,
but then it's like I catch myself, like you said, I'll go pick up my son from school and I have 5 minutes. Most of the time I go on my phone.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Me too.
The one time I forget my phone, I'm like, oh, I do have a sketchbook. I can draw. So let me draw right now. And then you just get out and you start and you feel, wow, I miss this feeling. I'm so stupid. Why haven't I done that before? Why don't I do this more often? I can actually draw stuff. Okay, cool. But yeah, it does go back to, I mean, it's just this times, technology. But I do like the fact that you brought that up, Hannah, and that we are special. I'm going to say our generation is special because we grew up between the two. We grew up in before internet, before social media, during it, the growth of it, now after it. So we can kind of bridge that gap. And I think that's important for all of us to do is how can we find ways to bridge that gap? And that's what I tried to do through my art is like bring that nostalgia, bring it forward a little bit. And it's fun because a lot of people, I'm not going to grab everybody, but I do grab that little niche and then it introduces it to who's in their community, like their kids and whatnot. And it passes it on to them. Somehow like it'll start raising questions like, what is that? Oh, it's called a phone. Yeah. You put it up, you got this and you have to go doot, 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 doot. And if you mess up, you got to start all over again. It sucks. Yeah, it does. But that's how it is.
I had to explain a payphone to my kid the other day, and I was like, she's like, what if I didn't have money? And like, then you had to just stand there and wait.
Call collect. What's collect?
You had to call collect. Dude,
I remember that.
Right.
Call
I forgot
collect.
about
Like,
collect.
hello, can you charge them, please? Like, oh, so good. So
or
good.
You have to ask someone for money, which means you needed to interact with somebody. And like, I know this all sounds like we're just like, oh, kids these days. But
Back in our days.
It is really like drastic, the change that we're seeing even now. You know, I don't know. I see, because you have a kid too. You interact with other kids. Yeah. You're just like, what are you doing?
Yeah, they all just call each other bro right now. I don't get it.
Bro.
Yeah, even
I call my kids bro.
Yeah, but it's funny. Even the teen girls, I sit there and I'm hearing like when they're like bro, and I turn around, it's two girls talking to each other. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Okay,
that's
cool.
California though.
I know it's California.
That's
totally
our
California.
dialect.
Totally California.
Bro's gender neutral here in California.
It
Bro,
is.
dude.
So is dude, and again,
it's the universal language. I love it. It's like, hey, bro. And it's like a snail that I'm talking to.
I call my mom bro.
Yeah,
like
bro.
I call everyone bro.
I call Hannah bro a lot.
I call you bro.
Yeah, we're dude and bro all day long.
Yeah.
In a sense, I guess what I'm saying is with all this stuff, it's like gatekeeping is kind of cool.
I think we should get
hot take.
More.
Yeah.
Hot take, Patrick.
To a certain extent. So this when I was doing research for this topic, what we're going to discuss, There is this one. She's called a certified positive psychologist. Didn't know that existed, but it did.
Certified positive.
Yeah, certified positive psychologist. Her name was Cindy. I think I'm pronouncing her name right. I hope Spiegel. Hopefully, you can put that in the show notes. It was basically talking about how she was on a tour, beautiful location. It was like a small person, like maybe 10, 12 person tour, intimate experience. Yeah. Walking through this, town, probably in Europe, and then all of a sudden, cruise ship comes in and docks. 6,000 people come out and just invade this town, basically. And what I got from the article was that, a lot of it was probably, a lot of social media influencer type thing where, hey, check out this place. If you're going here, you should go here, here. You've seen those videos, right?
There's an umami flavor on this ice cream that's unbelievable. I love it. That's why I came here. It's like, okay,
Chelsea, you're 21, and I don't care what you have to say.
Like that was a specific name to it.
Go back to Missouri. I don't know.
So all these Chelseas come out, right? And they go through this town, right?
Yeah, and Chelsea's.
One, a town like of this size, a smaller size, isn't built for all of this. So it just gets crushed, right? It's made for those small visitors coming through doing their thing, right? The other thing is, with all these people coming in, they're not getting a unique experience. They're getting something homogenized, right? It's just all the same. And they're all doing the same things because that's what they saw in these videos. Like, go here, take a picture here, go here, try that. So again, it goes back to that. You're not in that journey. You're not just exploring like, oh my God, look around the corner. Let's go there. Let's try that out.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It's dictated for you. And I'm not saying that these videos aren't good. There's some places that I would never have known about. But it's like, where's the fun in that? Right? If you're all going to the same place. When I went to Joshua Tree with some buddies, there's this rock. It's called like the Skull Rock. It looks like a skull. Everyone's taking pictures.
Cool.
Everyone's stopping there. And I was like, hey guys, let's keep going. Let's keep driving. And we drove and we went on more of an amazing hike, went off the path, got lost, had adventures, jumping on rocks like a bunch of little boys.
Found Kaveh out there, full beard.
Found Kaveh. We're like, Kaveh, we found you. We've been looking for you for 3 months.
I've been drinking my own piss this whole time.
Nancy doesn't home anyway.
Eating cactus
As you take a
sleeves.
big swig of your water bottle.
That's not water. He learned something new. So
anyways, go on.
Again, it's just one of those things where you have to be adventurous, not just, and that's like the metaphor of like actually traveling, but also traveling with whatever it is that you're doing. Like looking at social media, we all do that. But what is your takeaway from that, right? If the input is all the same, what is your output going to be? Yes. And that's something that I heard James Cameron talking about. He worded it differently, and it's in regards to AI, and I'm not going to jump into that right now. But
this would be an 8-hour podcast.
Yeah, I know. But and that's my thing with like social media and all these videos, and it's like everything is being dictated for you. Everyone is going to be doing the same thing. Like when we are all in Artist Alley, and I've seen these videos where artists share like, this is what I do. This is where I get this. This is where I get that. Right? Great. Yeah. What happens next?
Everybody does the same thing.
Exactly. Right?
Yep.
And so that's why I say gatekeeping is actually good, because it forces you to be innovative. It forces you to go, I don't know where they got that, but I need to find my own thing that kind of does the same thing. Let me go research. Oh, here's the same thing, but I don't want to do what they're doing. Let me do something different. Right?
Exactly.
Their setups are beautiful. They work well. They make bank, but it starts to look all the same. It does. Right?
Yeah. Again, I could talk for 8 hours about how the booth game has been raised up.
Yeah.
The standards have been raised up so high that I'm like, well, I thought this was about art. Yeah, no, it's about the flashiest booth, and I want to die. I can't handle it.
I mean, it's its own art form, and I've seen people elevate it, but it's within their own like style, and it feels like it gradually became that for their tables, for their booth and stuff like that. But then there are others where it's like a carbon copy, like copy paste. Yep. And again, it's like because it was given to them, because that's easy, that's the low hanging fruit. And yeah, maybe you're on a budget and that works and that's great.
Yeah.
But where's that sense of like,
Evolve.
oh, this didn't work. There's that trial and error. Like, can I use this?
Anger.
It totally fell
The
apart
anger.
on me.
It's the anger. Yeah.
Right?
Every convention, there's something that pisses me off to the point of me changing something.
Yep, exactly. And you pivot.
Where it's like, that didn't work. Yeah.
It feels
But I
like that
think
episode of
that's
The Simpsons
important.
where Homer's trying to build the barbecue and he's just fighting at the end. That's every convention setup for me,
Yeah.
every single time for the past, 6-7 years that I've been doing it.
Yeah, no matter how long we do it, something falls, something like we got to rearrange it, we got to move it, we got to
Somebody
think
next
about
to you
weight.
has like a giant neon sign and you're like, great, how am I going to compete with that now?
Yeah.
Because everyone's been watching TikTok and neon catches the eye. So here I'm going full boomer. It's, but whatever. That's problematic to get into that. But to an extent, yes, I agree with you. There should be some gate. I don't even think keeping, just gate monitoring.
I think there needs to be just, kind of a rethinking of what works.
Might I weigh in here on the
Please.
term gatekeeping for it? I think it's maybe a little bit more complex problem than just saying gatekeeping, because I think gatekeeping is different because it's about not wanting people to experience the thing that you like. But I think what's changed is the incentive structure, where the incentive is not about sharing something because you're really excited about it. It's the fact that within a platform, you are essentially like bludgeoned into creating something that the algorithm will appreciate and share to the most people. So it's about the most amount of spread and views more than it is about having specific information, which, I'm not going to place judgment. I don't know. I'm sure these people are fine people. I'm sure there's fine people on all sides. But no, I'm saying that I'm not saying that they're like bad people. I'm saying that the incentive structure has essentially pushed people into doing it for the most amount of engagement.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And that I think has corrupted a certain level of it. And it's not necessarily because you're trying to figure out one specific tiny problem. It's like even us within the show, like how we make a thumbnail or how we title an episode is like, you can't get away with not doing some level of it. Like we're all complicit in it.
Oh, yeah.
Just for the people listening. It's not like we're better than them and we're not part of this.
We're
we're resentful of the fact that this is the structure that it has itself set up.
I have paid tribute to the algorithm in many ways. We have to. But there's the gatekeeping. I think you're right about the word gatekeeping. It's like, I don't want people to not do this. I want people to enjoy it. Oh, maybe this is just bad. I want people to enjoy it like I enjoyed it. But is that gatekeeping? Oh, no.
Well, it's more like, no, I think the enjoyment is in like the struggle is kind of what you're saying, Patrick, from that article.
Yeah.
And then that's what separates you from
discovering.
being somebody who's
Yeah.
But I'm glad you brought that whole, everything that you talked about. It kind of wraps up the point nicely, kind of buttons it up. And to what I wanted to say, it's like it becomes performance transparency.
Yeah, there we go. That's the word, performative.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, let me show you this. And it's like, no, it's gaming the system. They're not showing you because some of them have that, kind of altruistic spirit where they're like trying to really help you out. But others, it's just more like, no, I want to get people to look at my stuff and watch my videos and do all this and that.
My
And
sponsors.
it's like, and that's the part that frustrates me. It's like, not frustrates me, but makes me go like, that's cool. But hold on. Yeah. What am I going to do that? Do I want to do that? Like, no, I need to find my own thing. And I think because of the generation we came up with, there's a little bit more of that restraint to go, let me pull back from that a little bit. Cause that's just maybe too much on the nose. What can I do? That's my flavor. Right. But we've taken the time to figure out what the flavor is that we like. We've done that discovery, that journey. And I think that's the part that's getting lost. And that's why I brought up the word gatekeeping, like gatekeeping to like kind of reel you in a little bit so that you kind of figure out what's your secret sauce.
Right.
Also, I'll say people will get mad at those kinds of people who engage in this way. And rather than getting mad at those people, which most people do on the internet, instead think about, why do we have a system where that's the only way that somebody like that can make money instead of engaging in the actual thing that they're making? That's the bigger problem. It's not these people specifically. It's the system in which we all exist.
Everyone's trying to make a career. Sorry, I keep interrupting you. Go on.
No. I was just saying that's the end of I was like you said, Hannah, I'm like, this could be a 6-hour podcast where I complain about all of that. It's the system that's set up, and we all know who set that system up.
Yeah. He lives like 10 miles from me, and I wish I could get into his compound, but I can't. So I will be asked to leave. I was going to say, like the blame shouldn't be, I mean, as we've talked about on our panels before, like I had weird, crazy early Instagram popularity, and then it went away very quickly after the algorithms came in, and that was like, well, now what? And so we all have to do something to keep our careers going or to make money, and it's capitalism. It's what it is. It's the way it's all set up. It doesn't give people much choice.
It is, and it's figuring out, like we all talk about, how do we stand out from the noise? I think there's going to be more value in a lot of in-person events, engagement in a more kind of personable aspect where you're physically seeing one another. Of course, you can't go everywhere, but I think doing stuff like podcasts is great because you do get that interaction, you have face to a name, face to an artwork. Mm-hmm. But then also when you translate that to actually going to events like the cons that we go to, I mean, it's expensive. We can't go to every con.
Right.
But I think that's what people are, in regards to artwork, valuing. They're valuing the art, but also they're valuing the person behind it, right? Mm-hmm. They're valuing that, I seen how you grew. I watched your journey on social media, which is a great thing because I'm 1,000 miles away. And now I get to meet you in person and kind of talk to you and see how that is. So as an artist, with all these things, with the journey and whatnot, you can't just be a good artist anymore. You really have to be someone that can engage with with an audience. You have to be someone that knows just how to kind of have a conversation, right? And I think everyone here can do that. Because I've seen you guys on here. I've seen you guys in person. And you do a great job of that. Yeah, we don't.
Exactly.
We don't.
That's a nice way of saying that we just talk at people. So.
See? I like to phrase it nicely.
Thank you. Yeah, that sucks, though, for people who don't want to do that. We just need to bring the Medici family back and have them be the patrons of all the artists again and corrupt Italy. I'm fine with that, as long as artists get paid.
Just a bunch of
what I think.
I'm just going to do all these nude sculptures. That's all we're doing. And paintings of royal people just standing there like
slabs of marble everywhere.
Yep. Paintings of like doughy white people.
Yep. With fake wigs and everything.
Bring it back.
We can all do it now. There's no gatekeeping. We could put that all online. It's great. Take away the borders. Like, no, send it. Tag the Pope. There we go.
There is this interesting. This is one of those discussions that I honestly could talk about forever.
Yeah, sorry, I opened the can of worms here.
No.
We have no place for that on a podcast. We're not here to have discussions, Hannah.
We're here to spit facts, and that's it.
We're just trying to pump out content and good sound bites. That's all we're here for.
Whoa.
I said the word.
There's a sound bite. Yeah, you said content.
There, you used that one as that little clip.
Go back to the forest. What? You're banished. You said content. But no, let's bring it back to with video games. Because we talked about that at first. But the article you were reading, was that specific to video games itself or just the idea that things are...
No, I think the idea was first the kind of the gatekeeping idea and just how the journey comes from not having everyone know about all these things.
Right.
And one thing that ties into con culture and artists is resellers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So...
Do you have resellers that do that with your stuff?
Not my stuff. Every once in a while I'll see it on eBay, but it's not crazy. I'm not crazy. It's more
You're talking about resellers of your art. Because, ultimately, convention started with people essentially having garage sales where they're selling comics. Yeah. That's where the roots of it are.
I'm talking more how things have changed in regards to, in Pokemon. There are hardcore collectors that are actually collectors that play the game, that follow everything. Yeah. And they're badass about it. They know everything about it. They enjoy the artwork, follow it religiously. Wow. And then you see videos of people at Costco going crazy, fighting. And they're not the collectors. No. Most of them. 90% of them are resellers lining up to resell it. And there's that one person that's just standing there going, I just want one set because I want to play the game. Right?
Yeah.
And so it takes away that. In her article, she talked more about thrifting and how thrift stores raise the prices because everyone's thrifting now and everyone posts what they find.
Mm-hmm.
But in my instance,
for $1 anymore.
You can't because they know, let's raise it. And so that's I think also that's why I brought it back to more art centric stuff. That's what I see happening with when people go for signings. I remember Peach Momoko, I think that's her name, the Marvel cover artist, Peach.
Oh yeah.
She was doing signings, right? And it was she was like, first couple were going to be free, or first few were going to be free. She wasn't going to charge anything signed at New York Comic Con. Guess who got in line first?
The resellers.
All the resellers.
Oh yeah, it's like
coming in with all these comics,
buying tickets for concerts.
And she stopped doing it. She apologized to people that were there genuinely to get her, signings. Or I even think she said that like she was limiting it or something. But it got to a point where she had to address it, saying like, "Hey, this is not cool. Like it's spoiling it for everyone else. What's going on?" Type of thing. And I was like,
they're like vultures.
They are, and it's that's the part of it where, because it's so accessible to everyone, because everyone knows like, oh, there's value in that, I'm going to do that. That's all they're going for. They're just going for the quick buck, as opposed to the person who's like, I've been following you. Like I knew you when you were doing comics. I like your stuff. And granted, I am fortunate to have a line. I'm not going to gatekeep that. Every artist wants a line. Every artist wants to be busy and sell out. But I know genuinely for a fact that everyone on that line, I walk up and down that line. I talk to them.
You do.
They're there for the art.
Like the mayor of Artist Alley.
Do you really?
Like, hey, how are you? Nice to see you again.
I go over to your booth and I'm like, sorry, what is this? There's nothing like that happening anywhere else. It's really cool. It's really inspiring. I'll be honest. Like it's.
Thank you.
It's
very much so.
You somehow are able. I'll grill you about it later sometime. But it is fascinating the way that you interact with.
I'm local to San Diego. A lot of people are San Diegan here. Local hometown boy. The other part is it's a culmination of 10 plus years of doing this stuff.
There
plus,
it is.
Right there. It's not an overnight thing. I didn't go viral. It's been like this because I've been consistent at it. I've been lucky enough to get back in, but I'm also knowing that this is my biggest show. I come to play hard. I go in, all in, every year. And
it's really cool. That's why we have you on the panel, because we're like, how do you build this community? And it's been really enlightening.
We're all nervous. We're like, do you think Patrick would be on the panel? Because like Patrick's so good. He's
of course.
Pop-ups.
And at first I was like, who's Patrick? And you're like, that person. And it was this crowd of people. I couldn't even see you.
It's like, hello, I'm right
like,
here.
hey, Patrick.
But yeah, it just goes back to getting lost. Honestly, that's the most fun thing to do. Being okay with getting lost, and lost can mean that frustration stage of learning something, whether it be art or not, but just enjoying that phase. Even in gaming, there's that frustration phase. I suck. I can't get past this boss, or I'm getting killed so many times. Then you move on. You get better. With art, same thing. It feels like the same thing. You're trying to get that end boss, but you know what?
Yes.
That end boss, there's always going to be one. But it's like, how did you build up your character? How did you build up your skills to kind of find that beast and get that beast, or whatever that end boss is?
The confidence, especially as it relates to art.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, we're in a cave most of the time, but it's that's why you need that community. Like we talked about at the beginning. Where's that club? Where are the people in my club that I need to find?
Where's my my dungeon crew? What is it? Where's my tank? Where's the FPS? We gotta get some video game terms in here. So sometimes it's almost like that thing where like you're fighting a boss, but then the next room is the bigger boss, and even then it's still you just Yeah,
you go. Oh my gosh! Okay, let's do it. You just go. Let's do this. And I think that's
right.
It's a fun it's a hard, but it's a great mentality to have, because then it's just always like, aside from having to deal with taxes, that's like these are like fun beasts to tackle. That's like, that's whatever. Yeah. This isn't taxes. This is fun stuff. This is like,
life hack. Don't do taxes.
Yeah.
I'll say this too.
That's my
in
problem.
terms of
not
what
legal
you're
advice
about,
here.
Patrick.
Just saying.
Yeah.
I was going to say, the process of doing it is the thing that makes you the creative person. Yes. And that's why most artists I know don't really care to look at their own artwork, not because they don't like it. It's just sort of like, well, I've already done it.
I'm done.
Like that's the process of having gone through creating that is the thing that was the experience. And you sort of, or you don't get as not nostalgic, but you don't get as necessarily like misty-eyed about it. I mean, if you look at it, you're like, oh, that's a photograph of like a moment in time where I was trying to figure out this thing.
Yeah.
And I figured it out. But the piece itself is like, whatever, it's fine. It's like, I'm glad that other people like it.
Sometimes you go back and look and go like, I don't remember how I made this. That's kind of cool.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I do that. Like, I'm not going to do that again. That's fine.
Where you're like God mode sometimes. You're like creating exactly how you want. And then later you're like, what?
Yeah, you're like, how did I paint that? Oh, I'm not going to do that again. I'm sorry. I'm just going to pass on that. Sorry, guys. I'm going to take that in my portfolio because I have no idea how I did that.
There's a still life I did freshman year of college that stopped the teacher in her tracks. She was like,
Nice.
"This is amazing. I have never done anything as good as that since I was 19." But I remember just being like, "I can do art." Nope, never. Can't do anything
Nope,
like that.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, Patrick. Thank you so much. It was a very thoughtful tab. It was very wonderful.
And like,
sorry, Hannah, I cut you off.
I don't care.
I hope that
Leave
was.
them in.
I mean, it was pretty open. So I was like, okay, I'll see if this
I
works.
love that.
That's great.
Dude,
love it.
You talk to two artists about like the creative process. Yeah, we're not going to stop talking about it. It's great.
Exactly.
And push Chelsea out of the way next time you see her in
That'll
Prague
be
or
our new
whatever.
thing, like Chelsea's. I'm just gonna start using that.
Here.
Freaking
I
Chelsea's.
don't even think that's a name anyone's named anymore.
Yeah, I haven't met a Chelsea in quite some time.
It's like Ruth. You don't hear that too often either.
No.
Like the older names. Although sometimes they're making a comeback. It's like, oh, let's bring the old timey names back.
Dude, my daughter has friends named Charlotte and Eleanor, and I'm like, wow.
Eleanor. It's like from the 1920s.
There's so many Eleanors. There's Eleanor and James and Owen and then you got the trashy ones like Jaden with 2 N's and 3 Y's and so there's one or the other. We're like back in the old like 1800s England or futuristic Utah.
Dystopian world where everyone has like three consonants
in their names. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. That was really like, again, you're really easy to listen to. You should.
Yes,
I'm glad.
Thank you for teaching us.
You should teach.
Yeah.
I might dabble.
Real quick,
teaching.
I've always meant to ask you this, Patrick, because we have some overlap in our schooling. But if you guys who listen here are listeners of the Draftsman podcast, we were both disciples of the great Marshall Vandruff. But where did you study with Marshall? I keep meaning to ask and I keep forgetting. Yeah.
Okay, so in the early 2000s, I was working at a military base as a graphic designer. I was a civilian on the base. And at that time, I was taking art classes right out of college because my portfolio was horrible. So I was trying to level up. I just was talking to different friends who had taken different workshops because I was just trying to soak up as much information. There was no YouTube at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to find the teachers. And how you find the teachers was word of mouth. It's not just like a ABC or like, oh, yeah, take this. But no. And I heard of this. Someone mentioned, oh, Marshall, he does anatomy classes, he does composition classes. You should really try and take a class. And I was like, oh, where does he teach? Is he, and it was kind of hard to find the information, but I found it. And that he was going to do like a 5-day composition workshop or 3-day composition workshop at Cal State Fullerton. And I was like,
yep.
Okay. And so the class time was like 6 to 9, Tuesday through Thursday, midweek. And I was in San Diego and I was working full time. So what I would do is as soon as I got off to work, I would drive up, do 3 hours, drive back home, go to work. And I did that for 3 straight days. It was rough, but the information was awesome.
Yeah.
And I just learned so much. So it was well worth it. And so that was part of the journey again. It literally was a journey. And I remember that time vividly. I remember my learning and I remember everything that I got from it. And it makes it, now that I haven't thought about this in a while, I'm glad you brought it up. It makes it even more special. Like I remember where I sat. I remember having a tape recorder. I have like all the little tapes. I tape recorded everything. Tape recorded it and I would listen to it on the drive home.
That's awesome.
So I remember all those things and it just makes that time more memorable. That could be something that I can put into a piece. Maybe not me sitting there, illustration of me sitting there learning from Marshall, but something along those lines. And that's what I draw upon a lot. It's the same feeling. Yeah. And that's the thing is you understand that feeling and so you know what to channel. And that's the part where I hope people in their own way right now can find that because that is the secret stuff. That's the stuff that you want to like put in here so that when you put it out there, people go, oh, yeah, and makes them think about something, makes them remember stuff. So that's what I try to do. That's how I met Marshall.
That's wonderful.
I want to meet Marshall. He sounds awesome.
He's the best. He taught at my undergrad. He taught us sequential art. He taught a lot of stuff, but the class I took with him was sequential art. And that was the first time I was like, oh, I guess I had never thought of what a movie is or a story is in terms of like how it's constructed and how stories are constructed. So it's one of those things where I was like, before that class, I was like, what am I doing? And then I took that class and I was like, oh, this story stuff is really interesting. I never really thought about what any of that is. And Marshall's like, renowned. He's like one of the best teachers in Southern California. There's so many people that he's touched in terms of how he's taught and what he's taught. And it was definitely a moment where I was going this way and I ended up going a different direction from it.
He's the Kevin Bacon of art instructors.
Yes, it's true. He's amazing. Hopefully,
like
Hannah,
6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, 6 degrees of Marshall Vandruff, basically.
But can he dance?
Yeah.
I think he could.
Marshall introduced me to John Perez, our friend.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. A lot of great people. Anyways, Marshall also has a podcast that he sometimes goes on. It's called The Draftsman, where they talk about art, him and Stan Prokopenko.
I think they're doing more. I remember seeing it.
Yeah, they stopped doing it for a while. They recorded in San Diego too.
Yeah, I actually know Stan. I went to art school with him. I'm older than him. Yeah, he was a lot younger.
Oh, no shit.
So yeah, I remember like we went to the same one. He taught the school for a bit, then he started doing his own thing, and now he's
that's so funny.
The Proco.
He's the Proco guy. Yeah,
I call him the Proco guy.
The Proco.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sorry, I just wanted to get that on the record because I was always curious. And I would forget because whenever we talk at cons, information goes in one ear and out the other because we're so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I forget stuff.
And
I was like,
quick story with the Proco to anyone that was at Lightbox 2 years ago. I'm sorry I cut you in line, but I just wanted to give him a hug because I did. I saw him. I just went in straight for a hug and we started chatting. And then I turn around. There's like 4 people just like with portfolios. I'm like,
how dare you?
Oh, shoot. I'm so sorry. I totally cut you. I'm just saying hi. I'm about to bounce. And I was like, my bad. That's celebrity. Sorry.
Look, you do what you have to do, okay? For the hug.
I know. That's all I'm going to say. Let's get that'll be a sticker.
I'm going to come do that to you at Comic-Con. I'm just going to like weasel into your booth and give you a hug. I'm not a hugger, but I'll do it.
Do it. People will give you that look like, is she cutting? I'm like, no. This is my cousin.
Cutting.
She's 1% Filipino.
We're cousins.
That was awesome. Unfortunately for time, I think we should move on to the next tab, which unfortunately for the audience is going to be mine, Hannah, because I've been gone for 2 weeks, if that's all right.
Yeah, get with it. Get back on the whatever.
I got to get back into tabbing shape. Patrick, it's going to be a tough act to follow.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we're about to get dumb. So,
yeah.
just warning you. But that was beautiful. Thank you. And
yes.
What did you bring? What did you bring for us today, Kaveh?
So I don't quite remember what led me to today's tab, but I can say that in some sense that it began with a desire to escape this hellscape in which we currently live.
Aww.
And
LA?
like many people, all of it, basically, everything.
The whole everything. Gestures around.
Whatever, gestures and everything. And like many, I long for a fabled utopia, if such a thing exists. But how would that even play out? How would our minds even process getting everything that we wanted? Also, isn't it cool to observe rats and mice? And I know you're a big fan of that.
Yes. I love observing rodents.
I know you do. And that's the kind of blue flame thinking ethologist and behavioral researcher John Calhoun was doing when he concocted a series of overpopulation experiments back in the early 1970s that he coined behavioral sync for reasons that will become clear by the end of this tab.
I have this tab open.
Do you really?
Behavioral sync, yes.
Wow.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
How much have you read about it?
Barely. I remember reading a little bit and being like, oh, I got to save this for later. So I can actually go close this, but this is... Oh, have you also been reading about like civilization collapse and stuff? Because I have.
I mean, I feel like I just do that in general because that's the vibe that we're in right now. But I don't remember what led me to this one. I think I just saw rats and I was like, cool.
Love
you guys
rats.
have interesting tabs open.
Interesting.
We have crazy ones. Yeah.
No, it's like it's insane.
Speaking of insane, let's get to this tab.
So excited. The
son of a high school principal and an artist, John Calhoun grew up in Tennessee, where he spent much of his childhood watching birds. Like our old friends. He ultimately grew up to get his PhD in zoology and joined the Rodent Ecology Project in 1946. And the REP's main task was to eliminate rodent pests in cities. But this was early days in studying rodent behavior. There was no road-int map of where they were supposed to go.
Nice.
Holding for
Good
applause.
One.
Nice.
Holding for applause.
My heart is happy.
So is mine.
But of course, John does this and he's observing them and he's like, dude, rats are kind of awesome and their behavior is really cool and interesting and it kind of mirrors a lot of stuff and it's not as cut and dry as I thought. So he just starts to craft these really elaborate and carefully controlled environments to run these experiments on. And he started wondering if studying rats could influence how cities were going to be designed. Like maybe there's a correlation in these two things and we can sort of have them as a controlled experiment. And throughout the 1960s, Old Johnny set up experimental rodent enclosures at the National Institute of Mental Health Laboratory of Psychology.
Great.
So he starts
40s
bringing
mental
it in.
health, 40s asylums. Nothing could ever go wrong there.
60s is a little bit later. It's
Worse.
It's on the cusp.
Solid nostalgia right there. So
Yeah. I wish I could be caged again. Back in the 60s.
can you drill my head? That would be cool.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't
Strap
mind.
me on my
Lobotomize
head. Lobotomize me through my nose. Please. The kids these days don't get lobotomized.
See, they don't appreciate things. I'm telling you.
Give it time, Hannah. It's coming. There's certainly all of us are in a database at this point, and then now pretty soon we're going to be getting lobotomized like somebody's aunt.
I, for one, like somebody, exactly. RFK. I, for one, welcome my lobotomy.
That's true. You've been asking for it for a long time.
A little bit, yeah.
Still, no one's been doing it. But
No one does it.
Anyway, during the 1960s, John transitions from rats to mice for reasons I don't understand. I think mice are like a little bit more easy to contain, and they're smaller, and they're easier for the experiments. About halfway through this, by the 60s.
It's easier to kill them.
Is it?
Kill mice? They're smaller. Yeah, it's easier to kill them.
I don't know how they kill mice in a lab. Yeah, I'm not sure. But if they're in a controlled experiment, I don't think they're getting the disease and stuff, do they? Oh, is that what they do?
Yeah.
That's what I did to my mice when I didn't. Never mind.
they're a
Can't
lot
go into that
tinier.
story.
Which is
I've
funny
fed
to think
mice
that
to
there's.
a Komodo dragon once.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that there's now I just had an entire story run in my head as you say.
Of course
Hannah,
you
that I do. Which is, of course, now there's a story about the snakes that live in labs that just become fat cats because all they're doing is eating all these mice and they don't have to work for anything. And then the way that whole society dissolves. But story for another day.
Yeah.
John had 24 previous iterations before eventually landing on the now landmark psychological study. In 1968, he officially christened, quote, Universe 25 by dropping 4 female and 4 male mice into a 4.5-foot enclosure. A few months later, the first pups were born, and the population doubled every 55 days afterwards, eventually plateauing, maxing out at 2,200 mice during the 19th month.
Jeez.
Whoa. I feel a dark foreboding.
You should.
Yeah.
Now, the main thrust of this experiment was to observe behaviors exhibited in a utopian environment. Therefore, the mice were provided with unlimited food and water. That's it, as much as they wanted. No electric cheese shocks, none of that crap, just good vibes. Everything they wanted, nothing. All taken care of. Great, right?
Sure. Yeah. No.
As Depeche Mode would say, wrong.
Wow, they said that?
Yeah, wrong. You know that song? It's great.
Oh, there we go. You have to say it.
I
in
was
context.
born in the wrong house, in the wrong set. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, duh.
This is where the insanity truly begins. And feel free to interrupt. I know, Hannah, you're always worried when I like don't record for a while, but weigh in on whatever you guys have.
That you decided that for me.
Good. Let's start.
I'm just
go
excited for
ahead.
this because I think I know what's coming, and it's exciting. It's terrifying. So, please.
First, let's start with the pups, the babies.
Okay.
In the wild, infant mortality rate among mice is very high, with babies getting eaten, or they die from disease or cold or, some sort of weather condition or whatever. But in Mouse Utopia, essentially all the babies lived. That's why the population expanded and got exploded so quickly. But unfortunately, rodents have social hierarchies because they spend so much time in the manosphere learning about alphas and all that stuff.
We got to unred pill these guys.
This is the
getting out of
most
control.
red-pilled group of animals you're ever going to hear about right now. Someone's like, I'm not an alpha, you're a beta. The other guy's like, I'm a sigma. Someone's sitting in a cuck chair. It's a whole thing with these people, with these mice.
The cuck chair mouse has all
Cuck chair
all
mouse
the power.
Sounds like all the slang terms my son uses right now that you just said in that sentence. So I was like, PTSD. Hold on, stop doing that.
No.
Skibbity toilet. There's
I
all
know.
these
All
skibbity
these-
toilets
all
that
these
they're
skibbity
cleaning.
toilet mice all over the place.
The other day, my daughter was like, "What is a sigma?" And I'm like, "I'm not doing this."
Doesn't
I
matter.
can't.
It's not a real thing.
And I
It's
don't
not a
even
thing.
know. I don't actually
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Anyway, sigma mouse.
Sigma mouse. Yeah, sigma mouse. Anyway, so alpha males, in this case, establish dominance by fighting any challengers for control of harems of females, right?
Oh.
Sort of like how lions are. There's one guy,
Yeah.
he fights whatever the other lion is, and then he takes care of the harem. But
Or human kings.
or human kings as well. They're essentially hoarding resources, is what they're doing.
Women. Yeah.
So in the wild, as we said, the loser beta cuck mouse in his chair would run away like Simba and never return if he lost that
Right.
fight. He'd go start a new life in another town and change his name and pretend to be all mysterious and interesting and have some sort of like tortured past and use that as a way to try and create a new identity. But
Simba was a cuck.
exactly, he lost. But in this enclosure, these dudes could not escape.
Oh.
And the dropouts, as John labeled them, were trapped in the experiment with nowhere to go.
That sucks. You can't hide. You got to face
can't
your failure.
hide. Can't do it.
So does that mean they became a target?
No, it gets weirder.
Ooh,
They
okay.
began to congregate in the center of the pen and create these like weird IRL 4chan incel boards. They just like swarmed around each other in the middle of it and started complaining to each other. And every so often, a huge brawl would break out.
What?
Vicious free-for-alls, biting, clawing, and fighting for no obvious purpose. Just unchecked aggression with no outlet of anywhere to go.
Dark, dude.
Yeah, they basically
Can't
are all
help but just
depressed and angry
Compare
and
this
upset.
to our own. Anyway.
And ironically, it was no picnic for the alpha males either. They kept their harems in private apartments, like little sections of the box, but they had to constantly defend them from the hordes of gamer gators that kept coming in and trying to fight them all the time.
Yeah, they couldn't leave. There's nowhere to go.
Also, no one's dying in childhood, so it's nonstop. As soon as you like fight one guy, another one's born. Like 2 weeks later, he comes in and he's fighting.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
It's just like Lethal
All
Weapon.
in 4 feet by
Yeah.
4 feet. Insane.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm getting too old for this shit. He's just, I'm sick of fighting these guys all the time. What the hell is this?
Maybe share some females? I don't know.
There you go. That's what they don't do.
Yeah.
And so eventually what happens is the alphas are all just like, they toss their hands up and they're like, screw this. And they stop defending the apartments altogether.
Oh.
Yeah. We all know what happens next.
I don't think I do. Murder?
Unprotected females in their little apartments.
Sorry. More mice.
So, yeah. Nursing females soon start to get raided by Andrew Tate fans that are just coming in and trying to be all like over dominant about everything.
Ew, dude. Oh. I like how you're
mother-
personifying these mice in the absolute worst way. Like, I hate mice now. Like, I don't know if you know, but I hate mice. They're a bunch of Andrew Tates.
Gonna feed them all the snakes, right? Now Hannah's gonna get a snake. Just like feed
There's
it.
not
There
a
you go.
snake big enough to eat Andrew Tate.
Eat all of
and
these.
his-
That's true.
If
Gonna
there
have
was,
like
I
5
would
snakes. Just be like,
slowly eat him.
hello, 500 tabs. Here are my 20 snakes.
500
Andrew
open snakes. Yeah. So the nursing females get attacked. The mothers fought back, but often to the detriment of their young, right? Because you're in the middle of a brawl with
Right.
like this insane dude, and then you're like stepping on them or like, you know, killing them by accident.
Oh.
And a lot of mothers were suddenly like, dude, I can't take care of you. And they kick them out and they're like, go get a job. And they just like kick them out of their nursery
Their
in the
babies?
apartments. Yeah.
Oh, no. They're not ready.
And they're not ready. They kick their pups out too early. Unsurprisingly, these pups grew up to have emotional issues and trauma that they carried into adulthood and failed to develop healthy social bonds.
Dang, man.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. We're mice. We're all mice.
Right. Orphan
God's
females.
4 foot by 4 foot enclosure. That's
Exactly.
what we are.
That's
Or
the
just have
simulation,
harems.
so to speak.
Have a
Yeah,
bunch
right?
of harems. There we go.
Oh.
Orphan females began isolating themselves in empty apartments, which is not typical behavior for mice at all.
Sad.
And this to me is the most incredible part of it. I love this. I mean, I don't love it because it's terrible, but it's the funniest part. The orphaned males, on the other hand, took to grooming all day, preening and licking themselves hour after hour.
Just constantly.
Just constant self-care.
looking in a mirror, brushing their hair.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like a bunch of little
John
jiggly
referred to
mices. like a bunch of little Tron Travoltas walking around like Saturday Night Fever or something. Like, hey.
With no one with them, alone.
Yeah, just
That's the
been
sad
playing
thing.
the Bee Gees the whole time as this experiment
Stay
that's going
alive,
on.
stay
See?
alive. John referred to them as the beautiful ones, and ironically, even while constantly obsessing over their appearance, these males had zero interest in trying to get laid. They essentially became asexual, and they just lifted weights and did cold bath plunges and took vitamins all day long. That's all they did.
They were traumatized into asexuality.
Into like bro sexuality. I don't know if you want to call it that. It's like they were very obsessed with their physical
Gym-sexual.
appearance. Yeah, gym sexual, but all performative without actually trying to go out and procreate and reproduce.
Insane. Okay.
They're just like enough.
John had I don't need no woman in my life. Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to sit here and do this.
Lick this. It'd be
Licking
look
the
good.
arm.
Yeah, that's it.
John had noticed in earlier versions of this experiment that such deranged behavior could spread like a contagion from mouse to mouse, and so he dubbed this phenomenon the behavioral sink, when it overflows and starts going into other places. Yeah,
The behavior would like
behavior was starting to spread.
travel. What?
Between no one banging and no one being able to take care of the pups that were born from the constant attacks, the population of Universe 25 began to plummet.
Oh my gosh.
By the 21st month, newborn pups rarely survived for more than a few days. And soon, new births stopped altogether.
What? What?
They shut
And
down.
by that time, everyone just gave up. They just gave up.
Yeah.
And the boomer mice, they hung around for a while in their houses they bought for pennies on the dollar and complained about how no one wants to work anymore and they spend all their money on avocado toast and how they're killing the doorbell industry and how they've all gotten too frugal and the economy is crashing because they don't eat out anymore. And they spent all their time grooming and watching Fox News, but eventually they all died out as well.
Oh. But then what? No mice? Nothing?
By spring of 1973, less than 5 years after the experiment started, the population had crashed from 2,200 to 0. All inhabitants of Mouse Heaven had gone to Mouse Heaven.
I think there's a hell. I think there's a hell specifically for those mice. That's insane. Complete population collapse due to this
collapse.
Behavioral sink, whatever that is.
Sorry. I say you're saying Star Trek can never happen.
Yeah.
Not for mice contained in one space in the area. If they had spaceships, they might have been able to.
If it can't
there we
happen
go.
for mice, and then it can't happen for us. I'm spiraling. Dude, here it is. It's nice to have you back because when you're not around here, I do spiral into existentialism to the point where I focus on the late Bronze Age collapse for a week straight and have literal nightmares about it. And then you bring me this.
Just personified the late stage capitalism collapse, essentially, but through mice, so it's easier to process.
It is kind of like the graphic novel Mouse.
Yes. They all famously, were sitting around grooming themselves all day long while everybody else got eaten in the center of the box.
So why did this happen? Is there any... Okay, I guess you're going to talk about it.
So it's interesting because this is essentially since then become like a litmus test for where you land on the political spectrum. And depending on where you fall, you can shape the results to fit the worldview and your worldview and where you think the biggest problems in society lie.
Oh,
right?
Fascinating.
So you can, whatever your stance is, you could find a reason that justifies it based on what this experiment tells you.
You're right.
I read a few of them.
We'd have more babies.
I read a few of them that I think is interesting, but I'm curious as to what you guys think. And we're not going to judge, obviously. I'm just sort of curious what your initial reaction is.
This is where I come out as a trad wife. No. I'm kidding. No, it's just too many. That's the thing. Too many people in too small a space with it can't end well. I don't know. That whole thing is crazy.
What about
I
you?
mean, they had like all the food and water they needed, but that's only one resource. There's so many other things that were lacking. And I think a lot of it just comes back down to just the learned behaviors, the actual interactions, the bonds that were lost. So it's when there is none of that anymore, then it is basically you turn into savages. Even within animals, there isn't that instinct to do this or that. You lose that, then it's like, what's the point? That's what I think that's why they started grooming themselves. Like, what's the point of doing that? I'm just going to sit here and just do my thing. The heck with everyone else.
Which you can argue is that a form of intelligence almost, because you're like, if it's like a fleeting kind of pointless task, isn't it smarter to not engage with that and just sort of self-preserve if that's like your ultimate directive is to just stay alive as long as you can?
Like you say, you could be a case for anything. But it's like, what's your personality? Are you going to be sitting there and let it go, or are you going to be one to like, how can I make this better? It just depends on what side you want to take with that.
What it tells me is that even the people that with all the harems and money and whatever, if we want to equate that to, they're also going to die and not have anything to remember them by.
That's true.
That at the end, you can't, the social hierarchy will collapse no matter what. Mm-hmm. And we're all going to be so dark. We're all going to be in the same dirt.
Well, it's true. It's like, we all die, but what are you going to be remembered for? Are you going to be remembered for like, okay. There's few people in history that are remembered for great things or horrible things, than what their names are synonymous with. For us everyday people, maybe it'll say like for me, like I was a good artist or whatever. Is that going to matter? No, because the people that care about me, that are going to be at my funeral or whatever, be my family and friends. I'd rather be something like he was always there for me. Like he had my back, things like that. So again, it's perspective.
He groomed himself all day.
Yeah. He just licked his
arms
all day. That's all he did. Other parts too, but we won't go there. But all day.
Dude, that is like mind bending. That it's crazy how something so innate, like the actual like wired nature of a mouse, could be completely shifted in one generation.
Yeah.
Just by there being too many. I don't know. Like what was it that caused the collapse? Was it having too much resources? Was it not work? They don't work hard enough to get with their food.
Listen, they're all welfare queens. That's why, because they basically were spending all their money on sugary drinks instead of getting a job because no one wants to work and they're bums. No, I can't even joke about that. It makes me so angry. No, I mean, I think in terms of there is infinite resources, obviously, which is the water and the food, but then there's limited resources, which is the apartments, right, where they're able to store them,
right?
And then again, I read it's fascinating when you go look at it. There's all these arguments that come up from it, which is like, this is a reason for birth control, so that if they weren't able to have so many different babies, then it would have like not caused a societal collapse. And then the female mice could have, or whatever, female mice, quote unquote, then women can have agency and they're not beholden to this and they're not overwhelmed by that and this and that and that. And then the other end of it is like, okay, well, the alpha males are just hoarding everything, and they're hoarding, like in this case, their resources are the females. That's the resource that they're hoarding, and the apartments, and they're not letting anybody else get in. And so then essentially like a small group of people have all the things that are the most important, while everybody else is meant to fend for themselves in the center. And also there's no like, mental health options for these mice that have been like essentially destroyed by some weird alpha.
Kicked out.
Be like, it's okay. Maybe you're not a fighter. Maybe you're an artist, and like your job is to make whatever, something else, instead of trying to like exist in a society that is not like does not revolve around your talents or like the ability to go somewhere else and restart and like rethink your idea of your identity.
I think that's the big thing.
The crux,
I agree.
Is that they couldn't get out. That was what made this all.
There was no pivot. There's nothing that was it. It was either this or death. Okay, die. That's what happened.
Yeah.
And then they're all just fighting each other.
We solved it. Ha!
We solved it.
Close the tab. We solved it.
People in a room. No, I'm so glad I can close that tab because I've been wanting to read about it for the whole time. This is amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my tab. I think it's a little bit of a shorter one than I normally do, but I just thought it was insane and comical the way that it panned out. Like I said, and it's also the litmus test part of it is really funny to me.
I love
because that's all I kept seeing.
Full manosphere collapse.
Yeah, it's all That's all I saw is manosphere. That's all
it is. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not an alpha. Oh, I need to go become an alpha. Yeah, I'm gonna sit in my room and listen to a podcast and lift weights all day.
That was fascinating.
Anyway. Yes, that's my tab. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to speed run through it. But that
was cool.
I was very excited about that one. It was wild.
It's my turn.
Yeah, Hannah, what do you got for us?
Funny that you talked about animal behavior because I also have something about animal behavior.
Sweet.
And it all started, and you know this story about how I was followed by a crow last week.
Yes, you were texting us about it, and I
was
telling you
live
to give it
texting.
peanuts.
I know. I was live texting Kaveh about this crow that was following me as I walked to pick up my kids from school, and it wouldn't leave me alone. It was like on the wire above me, and it was like hopping and screaming at me for like half a mile.
It's kind of creepy.
Clean up your yard.
I know.
Pull out the weeds.
I'm gonna report you to the city again. It's the crow who did it.
Yeah.
No,
Why is there a ladder in your driveway?
The ladder's gone now. It's a huge broom. So. We have a industrial broom in our driveway. It doesn't matter. We're the neighborhood trash people. So, and they've made that abundantly clear by how many times they've reported us. I can't get into that. So the crow is just up there following me as I walk and just screaming at me. And I was like, what is this? And I was like, surely it's not following me. And then I crossed the street and it flew across and landed above me. And so I was live texting you guys about it. Yeah. And it surprised me that there was a part of me that was like a little creeped out and superstitious.
I would have been.
Right? And so, of course, I was like, well, why is it doing this? And I was having a weird day anyway. Like, it was just one of those days where things were weird, where you just feel weird. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, that makes sense for today. So, of course, I look up, why is a crow following me and screaming at me? And, of course, I was met with, like, you're going to die. This is an omen of your death. Or...
or it's like, what are you wearing? Were you asking for it? Is that why the crow was following you? Is what half these things on the internet would say.
because I was wearing a hat for the first time in a few years. Okay.
Oh,
and so
that's why.
I realized that the boring version of it is that it was probably protecting its young and warning other crows that there was some hatted person walking, some unfamiliar person coming out of the house. Like, it saw me come out of the house, saw that I was wearing a hat,
Didn't
and
recognize
was
you.
like, "Oh
Wow.
no!"
This is part of the fashion police. What is this?
I know. It's like, this is my house. I can wear whatever hats I want. So I looked at, that's the boring answer, is that, yeah, it probably just didn't recognize me, and it was protecting its fledglings because they lay eggs and whatever in May and June. And so it was the perfect time. And my neighborhood is full of crows, and it's part of one of the largest murders of crows in the country, by the way. I'll see thousands in
awesome.
like perched in trees, and then they're all pooping at the same time. At the Target. So I got out of my car at Target, and just crows in the trees just pooping. And I'm like, great. So yeah, of course I was like, well, why is this happening? And I don't even get scientific answers. I get the fun ones. Like, you're going to die, or someone you know is going to die, or a spirit is contacting you, or change is coming, or you need to make sure that you steer clear of danger, and stuff like that. And I just fell into a crow hole, you know? Just...
I'm so sad that I didn't put up any of my artwork on the walls, because I have that one drawing that I did of a crow fighting an octopus, because I'll put it into the show notes. We'll place it in later. But the thing I always remember about crows, that the reason I drew that piece is because crows, first of all, they're as smart as a 7-year-old, I believe, is the cap.
Really?
In terms of what kind of intelligence they have. Oh yeah, they're like problem solvers. It's fascinating.
I'm going to get into some of that, but keep...
okay, go ahead then. Yeah. Spite is the short version of what I was going to say.
Crows hold grudges. And I think somebody that wore a hat at some point in the last few years did them dirty. Something, some unforgivable thing by a behatted person. What's the word for hat wearing?
Behatted? Sure, like bespectacled, behatted.
I didn't know that was a thing. I learned something new.
I'm going to just go into the kind of the winding crow hole I went down. So, first of all, ravens and crows, different. But in folklore, they're kind of interchangeable.
Yeah.
They look a little bit different. Ravens are about twice the size of crows. They're in the same, massive. And if you ever hear, you guys know what crows sound like when it's like this. Ravens have like this croaky noise to them. So they're like, I can't. We'll put something in. They sound like they're croaking. So you can actually hear a raven, and they'll hang out around crows sometimes. And but they're massive.
Sorry, the ravens make the croaking noise? The crow does not make the croaking noise? That's bad branding. Somebody should redo that.
I know. Let's talk to whoever runs the crow. I don't know.
Runs the English language.
Runs King Charles.
Sorry, I'm just bringing all the dad jokes fast. I have 2 weeks to catch up on. Continue.
Stop! Don't stop. So in folklore, I got like really into it because I like mythology a lot.
Yeah.
And the first thing I thought of was Welsh mythology, of course, because I did a lot of studying of that for a graphic novel I was going to do. I was modernizing a graphic novel, and one of the people in it is called Bran Bendigeidfrad, which is Bran the Blessed, king of the Britons. And Bran means raven, and he had like the raven symbology, which is also how when I was watching Game of Thrones, I was like, oh, I see where Bran Stark's. I see where Bran Stark's is. I called it on the first season.
Yeah. That's cool.
I was like, Bran, okay, Raven, here we go. And I called it, and I felt really good about myself.
Good job.
Thank you.
That's a good catch.
I know. King Bran was he battled the King of Ireland, and then he was beheaded. But he was a giant. And so all of his men had to carry his gigantic head back to England or back to Wales. And in the story, he just makes jokes and laughs with everybody and entertains them as they take him to his grave.
Oh my God, you're a descendant of them because you also have a giant head. That's probably what they were all upset by was the giant hat. The hat was probably a size like 37 out of a scale of 7 1/4 up.
Look, I have to buy hats special made. Okay, I know. All right.
Generations of crow hate just came down on you. That's what it was.
Look at this big-headed idiot.
There she is. Get up.
Oh, he would have liked me. I had a huge head. We would just hang out with Bran. Anyway, so they buried him in London, his head. And that's where the Tower of London now sits, apparently. And they still have ravens to protect them. Because in this case, ravens are protection and crows are protection and battle. Anyway. And so I thought of that and I was like, well, there's got to be other things. Where'd the omen of death come from? And of course, it's because they just eat anything, including corpses. And they love plucking eyeballs out, especially. Ravens, man, they love eyeballs. They'll just go right for the eyeball.
I thought that was just a movie thing. That's crazy.
No,
Persians will eat that too. They don't care. They'll just like throw everything into a stew, like a lamb's head. It's their jam.
Really?
A lot of brown people do. They'll just eat. They don't. We're not wasteful.
No, I know.
We're not wasteful. I mean, I won't eat it because it's gross, and I'm grown up here and I'm whitewashed. But I'm scared of it. But lamb's head. That's a full. They'll eat it for breakfast.
Lamb's head.
Yep.
Baby lamb for breakfast?
Or cow's head. Yeah. Or just head for breakfast. Calipoche is what they call it. It's feet and head. We're like the ravens of the Middle East.
Well, there's some Middle Eastern folklore about ravens that I'm going to get into. But the death and destruction aspect really solidified in Western culture during the plague because they had barely enough people to bury the bodies as it was, that they would just kind of leave them in piles sometimes, which would attract thousands and thousands and thousands of ravens.
Whoa.
And so the screaming of 1,000 ravens while you're watching half your family die. Yeah, it's probably not like a good association.
That sounds like a good heavy metal record.
I was going to say, it sounds like a band, yeah.
Right? So when the plague was over-ish, it became a traumatizing thing to hear a bunch of crows.
Yeah.
That it's like death is coming, because it literally would, and there was no escaping it. And so that's kind of where it solidified from kind of being this wise creature to something more sinister. But there's also crows in the Bible, in the Quran. There's crows in Norse mythology. Like Odin had two ravens who would he named Thought and Memory, and they would go out every day and collect info and bring it back to him. And so there's also India also has a god who rides a giant crow. Nice. Persia has instances of blackbirds acting as like a sort of messenger for the Zoroastrian religion, so it would like come and bring messages from God.
Nice.
The Philippines has a fairy tale about how the crow became black, meaning that it used to be white, but it flew too close to the sun and singed its feathers. So all of these things are very like the crow being kind of a trickster. And same with in the Pacific Northwest Native Americans, they have this the creator of the world as a raven, and it creates the world by accident pretty much because it got bored and it decided to open up a clam, and inside was humans. And I just love the idea that like it's like I'm bored. What's in here?
We're a clam man.
But he loved the humans when they came out, and he like protected them, and so they see crows as protective and ravens as protective. So, as is true with a lot of things, we don't really give enough credit to these ancient people who actually kind of figured out how intelligent crows were a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And they just didn't have there's no scientific explanation for it. So they're like, oh, they must be harbingers of the afterlife or whatever. And so that's when I was like, those are fun ones. But really, what were the crows actually doing to me? Why were they screaming at me? And so that led me down this amazing Instagram account called Corvid Research by this woman named Kaylee Swift. And she's like a crow expert, you guys. People who are listening, go follow her.
Related to Taylor Swift, I assume?
No.
She's like one sibling became a pop singer, the other one became a crow expert.
Well, not just a crow expert, but a crow funeral expert.
Crow funeral?
Because crows have funerals.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, so Taylor Swift's cousin, Kaylee, I'm just kidding.
No, she is. It's canon now.
You're Taylor Swift cousin, and I will go to any of your concerts. Okay, Kaylee?
Crow Taylor.
Speaking of...
Crow Swift.
Speaking of Kaylee, if you listen to this, just reach out. I want to talk to you. There's so much I want to talk to you about. So she built her studies on crow funerals on a previous study by a crow expert named John Marsliff. And this is the guy, I don't know if you read like 10 years ago, they did this whole experiment about how crows can memorize faces. Mm-hmm. And they put masks on and would wear these terrifying masks, one being a Dick Cheney mask, which I love it. And the other being a caveman. So you got this guy wearing a rubber Dick Cheney mask, just standing out, letting crows look at him. And then they came back and they had them trap them and associate the Dick Cheney mask with being trapped.
Dang, man.
Which is pretty amazing because...
Defund it. It's all becoming too political.
Yeah. We can't study ravens because they're going to attack our vice president. Because that is a nice thing to think about. If he ever goes to Seattle, there's a chance a bunch of crows will swoop down on him and attack him.
God bless. That'd be amazing. I wish that would happen.
I actually don't know if they used him for the negative one or not. But so they did these tests and they kept associating these. And they found that even years later, someone wearing that mask, the crows would alert everyone around them that it was dangerous. So they were like, Dick Cheney's in town, run!
I The crows are smarter than we thought. They'd actually just been watching the news the entire time, and they're like, there were never any weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. This is clearly an inside job for Halliburton. We know. Why don't the humans?
How long do crows live for?
Oh, in about 17 years in the wild.
Okay.
Oh, wow. That's so long.
That's a long time. That's good.
In captivity, 30 years.
30.
What?
But yeah, they live a while. So like the same crows can be like, oh, I remember this guy I remember Hat Lady from this time 10 years ago. And then they all scream at me. And they recognize not just that, but if you change clothes or wear a certain uniform, like if a mailman threw something at you, that's just an example.
Yeah.
And then you look like a mailman or you look like that person, you're now their enemy. And they don't forget. Yeah. And they warn everybody. And
they're
it's
kind of
insane.
racist in that way.
They're kind of racist.
They're just basing you based on your outfit, and then they just assume everybody who dresses like that is that person.
Yeah, the goth dinosaurs are racist.
Get it together, crows.
I should just start. I have a ton around my neighborhood. I should start feeding them so that they recognize me with someone. Oh, let's leave them alone.
Do you have any cats?
No, I do not.
Don't feed them cats.
Well, I tried to make friends with the crows during the pandemic.
Oh, but they get freaked out.
There's cats here. Absolutely not, you psycho. But they would swoop my cats sometimes. Like one time I woke up to a bunch of screaming and I looked outside and there was like 8 crows in the tree and they were all taking turns swooping down at my cat who was just sunbathing, just like basking in the sun. I'm like, what is happening out here?
Put on some clothes, a Speedo at least. Sunbathing.
Please.
Inappropriate.
Nude. Yeah.
Cover
Stop
all
grooming
the
yourself.
There are children here.
Anyway, they've discovered the long-standing like hunch they had that crows can recognize people and remember for a long time. So they're extremely, extremely smart. And Kaylee did a bunch of research on their funerals because they noticed that when they would find a dead crow, they'd all mob it and like start like cawing for a while around this dead crow. And then sometimes they would eat it. Sometimes they would
consume the flesh of the departed.
Sometimes
like
they would
Catholic, right?
Yeah, very very Catholic. And sometimes they would practice necrophilia. So
that's not really Catholic, I don't think. 'Cause I didn't
not
read
that we know
verse.
of. Just like penguins, they practice necrophilia sometimes in a few rare occasions. So they noticed there was a crow funeral and this bird was just going at it with this crow. Happy 69th episode.
Nice.
Segue,
yes. And then they also noticed that it wasn't just necrophilia. Sometimes them and their partner, their life partners, would come and mate on the dead crow. And so there was all these different like...
It's an aphrodisiac. The dead body was like, hey, honey.
It's like they see this dead crow in their territory and freak out, but it's also mating season. So they're like, but I want to bang. And so it's like this kind of crossed wires where they end up banging on the dead corpse. Besides that, most of the time they just all get around it and squawk. And they were trying to figure out if it was grieving, if it was like, we missed this thing, or if it was aware that it was like part of their crow tribe or whatever. But they figured out that it's probably just a learning lesson where it's like, we're going to go look at this dead thing and we're going to scream about it for a while and learn what not to do so this doesn't happen to us.
It's just don't do what Johnny Don't does, essentially. The dead crow.
Yes. Don't do what this guy did. So now I'm just going to like tell you a little bit about like a few crow facts because there's so many.
Yeah.
They can communicate in many different ways. So they have pretty much their own language. They can different calls and cries. Yeah, caw, that means let's bang on the dead corpse later.
Let's bang on
and caw means please don't bang on the dead corpse.
Going to the
later.
bathroom, obviously. That's what caw
on the corpse. Yeah.
On the corpse. Look, their funerary rites are complicated, and I'm not about to put
It's not our place to judge. Exactly.
No, I'm not about to put Western Christian
Listen,
values
pull up a chair
onto
and
these
just
crows.
listen. Yeah, we're here to listen. We're not here to judge.
That'll be in my will. I would like a crow funeral.
Take
it as you will.
Screams at
Take
my
it
coffin.
as you will.
Yeah, interpret that as you will, family. They can be trained to talk, similar to parrots.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So you can have like a pet. I follow this raven called Loki, of course, and it full on just says stuff, which blows my mind.
That's kind of terrifying.
And, yeah.
Sorry, by following a raven named Loki, you're talking about online, not like in person.
Instagram.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were just like, you're like, I'm turning it around and I'm going to follow you for following me.
I could just see you walking around in your neighborhood. Loki.
Yeah, Loki.
I did try to talk to the crow. It was weird because it was screaming at me, and my first instinct was to talk to it. So I was like, "What?
Honestly, yeah.
Hi, hey, what?"
Words are like, caw.
No, I was just yelling at it because I was like, "I'm just walking. What?
Yeah.
What is
I'm
it?"
walking here.
And then my neighbors all started seeing me yelling at a crow.
They're like, we gotta get her out of this neighborhood.
Like, get this lady out of here.
Wait, did you say what hat you were wearing? Was it just a baseball cap?
It was just a baseball hat, yeah.
What was the hat?
Yeah.
Maybe were there like, was it like a Yankees hat and then these are all Giants fans or something?
It had
like,
a cat smoking a joint on it.
The cat.
Maybe
the cat
they're like, we don't like drugs.
Like, ooh, they're like Dare. They're like, no, we're Reaganites. And no, so the hat has, Dope Cat, the artist Dope Cat.
Yeah.
It was his hat with the cat looking all high with a joint. Yeah.
Did Dope Cat used to live in your neighborhood?
Oh.
I think there's more to this story. We need to figure out.
I think there was a cat on my hat, and they were like, uh-oh.
Nope.
Don't like cats. So they will eat almost anything. Like one time I saw a crow in my front yard with an entire hamburger in its mouth.
Nice.
And it took off, and it flew with this giant hamburger hanging out of its mouth. I was obsessed with that image for like weeks. So they'll eat anything, but their favorites are peanuts, like you said.
Yep. Yeah.
Peanuts, and they love Cheetos. Love Cheetos.
So my fun fact with crows was like in my Mothman book in the Compendium of Southern California Cryptids, I have a giant crow. I have the Kingston crow that lives in Long Beach, because the whole thing that I was reading about it was if you give crows like peanuts or foods, they'll bring you back like something shiny as like a gift. And so they'll have like a whole exchange. So I came up with the story that was funny, which was like, there's one giant crow that lives by the port of Long Beach that's in charge of distributing all the different materials that go to everybody who feeds those crows. That. It's like the center. It's like the shipping center, which is where the port of LA would
Long
be. So
Beach makes sense.
Gigantic crow. Anyway, sorry, I had to plug in my other. I've done a lot of crow artwork because I've been fixated on this for a long time for some reason. But continue. There's a lot of fun to draw. Just a triangle and a circle.
Fun. Yeah. Exactly. Also, that's a testament to the fact that for millennia, crows and humans have had this very interesting obsession with each other, because we're curious about them, but they're also very curious creatures. So
they're like, I wonder what it would be like to bang on the corpse of a human
when
dead
they're not
person.
But sometimes they just sit there and observe and memorize and watch us do things. They like to watch humans do stuff, like go about their day. They're curious, which means they have this capability of learning and gaining information and keeping that information.
Yep.
Their brains are completely smooth, which is surprising.
That's what I've always wanted for myself.
If I can have the brain of a crow, scream at strangers, eat Cheetos all day.
That's literally all you do.
Personified.
I guess that's what this podcast is. I was just screaming at strangers.
A couple of smooth-brained people screaming.
Eating peanuts.
Oh!
It all makes sense now.
I know.
You didn't even do that.
You are.
That wasn't even part of the bit. That just was there.
I was like, I'm going to dress like goth today. And then I just dressed normal. So the crows, what was I saying?
Crows left. Smooth
brains.
The brain.
Smooth brains.
Smooth brains. And they were like, why is this thing smart? It has a smooth brain. But the way that an avian's brain is that it just kind of ends up being able to be smart without the folds in its own different way.
Weird.
If that makes sense. So I couldn't really figure out what, but Kaylee's website where I got all this information is called corvidresearch.blog. It's incredible. There's everything you could ever want to know about crows there. And and they're capable of murder. I forgot to say that. They kill each other. So
good for them.
And they're semi-monogamous. They have life partners, but they, sleep around kind of like humans. And some crows actually use sticks and stuff as tools. They collect tools and they use them, that's the first thing besides chimpanzees that do that.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Because I always hear this tapping on my roof, and I'm like, what the hell? And I just see a crow, and I'm like, what the hell is that crow doing?
Crow. There's
makes
stuff
sense.
somewhere for
They're
later.
Building.
Yeah.
There's these crazy videos on YouTube that you can watch. I can't remember what the account was, but I've watched them before, where it'll be they'll set up these complicated problem solving mazes and stuff for these puzzles for these crows, and you just watch it. You're like, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
That thing knows exactly how to get through it.
No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like Loki the Raven that I follow. He does all these little tricks and mazes and flawlessly.
Something else I got to think about. And I'm just looking at crows going, are you looking at me as a puzzle? What are you going to try to solve about me?
Yes. Here's the thing you guys can know. The crows in your neighborhood know who you are.
Yeah.
And they know where you live, and they know who you live with. They will log that. They just have that, and they will share it with the people around them. The crows around them.
I mean, it's a good neighborhood watch, though. They'll attack the people who suck and do shitty things. Like the person who attacks a crow, I don't want that person in my neighborhood.
No.
So they'll all attack them, so then they'll know.
Yeah. And crows everyone sees them as vermin, but they're absolutely not. And if they're in your yard, don't try to get rid of them.
No,
Just
make
cover
them-
your trash better. Like, and if you want to feed them and get to be their friends, you got to put the food in the same spot. That's the key. It has to be in the same spot because crows hate change. Turns out.
Wow.
They hate it. So like
they are boomers.
they are. They're like, whoa, the food is like a foot away. I can't.
Disgusting.
It's the
Can't
wrong
do
size.
this. Or
Wrong
like,
size. Where are you putting
There's
that?
something new on this porch. I'm not into that. This lady's wearing a hat. Absolutely not. And I'm saying all of this to also lead up to another crow-related thing I'm going to talk about next week, which is the relationship between crows and animals. And how they have been able, or crows and ravens and animals, and how they interact with animals in very similar ways we do, as in domestication. So,
interesting.
leaving it on a cliffhanger for
All right.
next week. And that was my tab about crows.
Nice. Thank
This
you.
is
That
like
was
a
awesome.
Semi two-parter. Thank you.
love it.
Should we
I
close
love
these
crows.
tabs?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and pull them up. Let
Okay.
me make sure I have all my
So
links I
many.
need to. Patrick, we like to have like a fun sound effect of some sort when we do it. Do you have any ideas of what you would like to hear in terms of how we should close our tabs?
Oh, are you actually going to get like a real sound effect, or are we
Yeah.
beatbox?
Alyssa always puts one in post. It could be like a crow. It
Crow.
could be exploding. Something related to one of the topics that we covered today.
We did 80s nostalgia a little bit. So I
Okay.
was thinking of, I don't know if you ever watched the He-Man cartoon. At the beginning, there's that
course.
of that whatever that
Yeah.
logo that pops up.
logo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That?
yeah.
Okay.
That'd be
Okay.
Let's
So
see.
that would be mine.
nostalgify
Find
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It disappeared into
Yeah.
space. Okay, ready?
All right, Patrick, you want to count us down?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Just
Oh,
do
just
3, 2,
3, 2, 1.
1.
That's
yeah.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. Close them,
All right.
close them.
Moving on to listener emails. Email number 1 is from Kay from someplace far away.
You're
Hi,
back,
Kaveh and
man.
Hannah. Right.
You're back with that quote.
Same joke. I only have 3 shows that I reference over and over again. Hi, Kaveh and Hannah. I hope you're having a good week. You may already know this, but just in case, I wanted to pass along my recently acquired knowledge that Nixon apparently expressed on one of his White House tape recordings that he was close to becoming a musician and would have liked to be a rapper in particular. Quote, I have often thought if that, or should I do it in the voice? I had often thought if there had been a good rap group around in those days, I might have chosen a career in music instead of politics. Here's one article on it.
Missed you, Nixon.
Here's one article on it, and there's a lot more since it was originally rediscovered by a Washington Post reporter. Just had to share this fun fact since Kaveh is now automatically linked with Nixon in my mind because of the show, and I couldn't stop imagining him doing an impression of Nixon rapping.
Oh.
I don't know if our audience is ready for that.
I
Wow.
don't think anyone is. Well, save that for the last episode of this show.
No, right? As like the series finale. I'll just do it all in like Nixon rap battle.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 to the 4.
Beautiful.
Represent. Also, as a longtime listener...
Yeah, I was thinking like MC Hammer, like not legit. I quit. Like, so that
Too
would
legit,
be.
yeah.
I would want to hear you do that. That would be awesome. And then doing the dance with like their.
I forgot about old Nixon. Also, as a longtime listener, I followed Kaveh over from Musical Splaining and fellow Many Tab opener. Thank you for your weekly podcast book reports. I and the rest of your audience really appreciate them. And I am also jealous of Hannah's impressive archive researching skills, keeping things Josie. Kay. Thank you, Kay. That's an excellent,
Kay.
excellent tab.
I love that Nixon opined about being a rapper. Imagine
Yeah,
being the
he-
Washington Post person who found that and broke that news story.
Out of all the things in history that we hear about from the Nixon tapes, it's only all the terrible stuff, but none of
when
the
he says the
amazing
N-word,
stuff. Like,
but never
yeah,
about
it's
the like being a rapper.
rapping career. Yeah.
Anyway, mine is from Sarah from Dallas, Texas. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Kaveh and Hannah. I just finished listening to episode 62 and enjoyed the tab about Rube Waddell and his antics.
Yeah. Rube.
At the end of the episode, you mentioned when Randy Johnson pitched and hit a bird during a spring training game in March 2001.
That's right.
Oh, I remember that.
Oh, yeah. I had the delight, Patrick, of showing him that for the first time.
Really?
I hadn't seen it.
Yes.
Crazy, right? Just
It was
It is.
you think it's
Unreal.
fake?
bursts.
Just like
I need to watch it over and
one
over.
in a million.
Just watch this
Seriously.
bird die.
Yeah.
Lots of people know about that event, but fewer are aware that after his baseball retirement, he has resumed his lifelong passion for photography. I thought you would get a kick out of the logo for his company, where he clearly embraces his accidental fame and the demise of the bird. It's a logo, and the logo is a dead bird. So we'll put it in the YouTube, but it's like a dead, full-on dead with X's for eyes bird as his logo. His website even has a gallery of wildlife. Pardon me while I now get lost in a Wikipedia rabbit hole about freak accidents. Keep it Josie, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. Also, let's hang out next time. She's my friend.
Yeah. If you also have a listener email that you'd like to send, please send it to 500opentabs@gmail.com. That's 500. Give us something fun that you found.
Yeah.
Of course, if you enjoyed this podcast, if you enjoyed our art discussion, if you enjoyed learning about crows or about rats all becoming incel manfluencers, share this podcast. Nostalgia. Yeah, and nostalgia. Share it with whoever this podcast made you think of. You can follow us on YouTube, Patreon, Discord, all that stuff. And of course, Patrick, as we mentioned at the top of the show, we're all going to be part of a PAC-MAN show that's happening this Sunday, May 18th in Irvine. Patrick, do you want to give us a little bit of a breakdown of what the piece was that you did? I loved it.
So I'm known for injecting a lot of childhood nostalgia into a lot of pieces that I do. So the one that I did was basically the creator of Pac-Man playing Pac-Man. As a little kid, surrounded by like all the little Pac-Man elements and stuff like that.
Oh, this is so cute.
And so I did a lot of research into like how the idea of Pac-Man came about. There are different stories, but a lot of the ones that came up was inspired by a pizza with a slice taken out, and it was originally called PAC-MAN. And then on the side, at the side of the arcade game is actually at the time the owner, the CEO, the owner of Bandai Namco. So I put him on the side of the machine also. And then there's little things like the year Pac-Man came out and stuff on the kid's backpack. So I was trying to put just a whole bunch of different things in there with just like what I grew up with, waiting in line for the arcade games. I got next. So that's why it is called I Got Next, because Pac-Man actually has next. He's got the quarter in hand waiting to play.
I love this.
Thank you.
Oh, that's great, dude. I've been excited to see yours.
Hannah, did you send me the final of yours?
I
you want to text it to me?
Yeah.
Nice.
I was going to go change more of stuff in it, but then my cat died. So I was like, never mind.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's funny. You guys have similar angles from like the back of Pac-Man.
Cool.
Back of the game.
That's fun. The tabletop.
Pac-Man playing him, battling the ghosts through the game. Anyway, yeah, I had the tabletop version.
One. Yep.
Yeah. Because that was my memories. I always, because I think maybe it was just the arcade I would go to, that was what was there. It was the tabletop 2-player.
That was at the Pizza Hut for me, like saying pizza.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think that was the more prolific one that was throughout the 80s was the tabletop version.
Well, and I just loved how the 80s were just so much like wood. Like everything was kind of like gross, like brown carpet and wood, and everyone's like, it's neon. So I tried to make the background to this like very 80s, like in the very back. You get the change machine.
Too. Yep, that's cool.
Yeah, the change machine.
I love
old,
that
old
awesome.
80s, and I wanted to put that wood paneling into places, but also have the neon. Anyway, it was fun. It was really fun. Thank you.
Yeah, I like that the world of the Pac-Man mirrors the actual world inside the game itself, where it's like against black with like limited colors.
Classic. I realized my husband pointed out, he's like, it's meta. That's like kind of what you do all the time, where it's like one thing inside of another. And anyway, but then let's show yours, Kaveh. It's really awesome.
Mine, speaking of meta, mine was I saw Pac-Man at 45, so I was like, oh, what about Pac-Man being 45 years old, which is basically just where I'm headed. So my piece is unsurprisingly more insane. So it's Pac-Man getting up at dawn to go for a run. And of course, he's wearing his like big fancy running shoes with a knee brace. And he's got his reader glasses on. And he's wearing like a dad hat. And he's got a smoothie that's like all of his special
that's cool.
That he gets.
I like that.
I just noticed that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. That's a good touch.
And he's going on a morning run. And then, of course, all the ghosts are like, why are you up so early? This is annoying. So they're drinking coffee and they have like bags under their eyes and they're irritated with him. But he's like, I don't care. I'm 45 years old. I'm getting up at dawn to go get my exercise. This is basically me. Is essentially
it's
all
you.
it is.
I like the knee brace. I can relate.
I'll text you in the morning. You're like, don't text me. I'm walking. or something.
Now I'm just going to imagine ghosts around you. Like, Kaveh, what you doing? 6 a.m. I'm walking with ghosts. Okay, cool.
Chatting with the ghosts, going on a ghost bike ride.
I love that.
I had a lot of fun doing this one.
The touch with the smoothie. I hadn't put that together until just now. That's all the
Genius. Geniuses.
Thank you guys, and I love both your pieces as well. And if you guys are interested in seeing them in person, remember you can come this weekend to see us. Otherwise, the show is going to be there for the summer. You can go see them in Irvine.
Yeah,
we will probably have them for sale at some point.
Pretty sure it's fine.
Pretty sure. But anyway, in the meantime, Patrick, why don't you tell the audience at home where they can find you, maybe about your newsletter, anything that you want to plug before we wrap it up?
Sure. So on social medias, just look up my first and last name, Patrick Ballesteros. And then my website is patrickballesterosart.com. That's where you can do online shopping. If that's closed, patrickballesteros.com is my main site that has everything, portfolio, all that stuff. My next con will be San Diego Comic-Con in July, then Dragon Con Labor Day weekend in Atlanta, Georgia. And I do have a newsletter that's all on my site, and I don't spam people, but I like to give informational stuff, behind the scenes things, and little insights into stuff that I find cool online.
Nice. It's a good newsletter.
Hannah?
Oh, you can follow me at Hannah Hillam everywhere.
I almost forgot. This weekend is Comic-Con Revolution out in Ontario, not in Canada, but in the Inland Empire in Southern California. And I will be there for another Mina tab. I almost completely forgot. It's going to be Saturday, May 17th from 5 to 6 p.m. in room 200 AB. We have a couple of new people on the panel that have not been around before. So if you're going to be there at Comic-Con Revolution, come check it out. Also, my information is all on my Instagram, which is PermaFriends. And of course, I'm Kaveh Taherian on Blue Sky. And I believe that about wraps it up. Patrick, thank you so much for your wonderful tab. I'm not surprised at how insightful and delightful it was. It's a reflection of you as a person in your art. So thank you again.
Thank you guys. That was awesome. Had a lot of fun.
I love being able to talk about shared experiences and nostalgia. It's always good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again. And until next time, I will see you at the Gwen Stefani tribute toilet.
I'm going to keep it Josie and see you there as well.
Keeping it Josie. You know what? I should keep it Josie because Josie came last week. The Gwen Stefani tribute toilet? It's always a mess.
The Gwen Stefani... Look, you were gone for 2 weeks. What was I to do?
No one cleaned it.
Clean the Gwen Stefani tribute toilet? No, it's... our sign-off is a mess. And so usually Alyssa will just
fade it out
as we fumble through it.
Anyway, thanks again, guys. See you next week.
Bye.